So today, I'm bringing campus ministries to the table.
Yay.
So
Campus
you went
ministries.
to a Bible college.
I did. Every day was a campus ministry.
I bet it was.
Oh, yes, I
What
did.
were there particular, were there national campus ministries there, or was everything there affiliated with the college itself, or how did that work?
No, because it was a Bible college, we didn't have any
Yeah.
separate fellowship
Okay.
ministry thing. I mean,
Okay.
it was all Bible, all
They
Jesus all the time.
provided all the fellowship you needed right darn there.
That's right.
Okay. Well, I went to a heathen college. I went to a state college, state university. And it was
no
like
rules.
30,000 students or whatever. Right. No rules, all just hedonism around the clock.
Yeah.
So we needed
we had to sign the waiver, that we weren't going to have sex, we weren't going to be drinking, we weren't going to be doing drugs, we were going to be good little Christian boys and girls.
Okay, we didn't have to sign any waiver, and maybe we weren't allowed to do those things in the dorm. But
yeah.
Otherwise,
we weren't. Yeah.
College experience was ripe with all those things. So
I'm assuming you also did not have a curfew. Like I did.
I mean, the dorm had the dorm didn't actually have a curfew. It just locked. The doors locked at a certain time.
Right. No, we had
curfew.
To be in and signed in by 10 every night.
Because as everyone knows, nothing good can happen after 10 p.m.
After 10 p.m.
Right.
Right.
It's all just orgies and
blow.
Drug,
orgies and blow.
Orgies and blow. I was about to say opium dens, but that's too classy.
Right. Yes. No, not where I went.
No. Oh gosh. Orgies and blow. Nice. So I was an art major in college.
Which we already knew because we discussed that in the Carmen episode of you not liking to, draw men.
Male bodies. That's
boxy and gross.
Yeah, utilitarian, just plain old, just, carts their skin around. Yeah. But I may have been the only art student in the history of history that made it through 4 years of college without trying illegal drugs.
Congratulations, Kristen.
I'm the only one I know. Now maybe there's another one.
I mean, not just
because they died of alcohol poisoning before they got a chance to try drugs. I'm not sure.
Right. Right.
But yeah, somehow.
And not just as an art major, you're probably the only student in the history of every college everywhere that didn't try illegal substances, no matter the major. Isn't that part of college?
I don't know. In the Bible college, you're not.
I mean, okay, not secular heathen colleges.
Right.
You're going to do something. That's the whole college experience.
Well, not if you're involved in a campus ministry. And that is what you have to get involved in to keep grounded in your faith, see, while you're in college, so you don't backslide down the spiral of doom into all these worldly pleasures and, issues of the flesh. And so,
were you in a Christian ministry? Is that what kept you from becoming impure?
I was very involved. Oh, it didn't keep me from becoming impure, but it tried its hardest.
Okay. That's
It
right.
really tried. It tried so hard. Um,
Yes.
yeah, so, yeah, I was involved in a couple during my stint, and then, of course, I knew many people, during uh, my time on campus that were involved in several others. So, today I'm kind of highlighting those specific ministries, since those are the ones I'm familiar with, but there's so many, Brittany. I was trying to just find a list online of all the, campus ministries there
Yeah.
are, and they're like, "Yeah, no, we can't count that high." Um,
Really?
yeah, and they come and go, and they're constantly
Yeah.
spreading like the
I
plague.
know nothing about it, so
Wow. All right.
just
So
hit me with
it
it.
is all me,
I
and you're just gonna have to
I mean,
you're just gonna have to trust me.
y
You're just gonna have to believe what I
that
say
that
and say what
that
I
is
do,
a
kind of like the rest of your Bible experience growing
tall
up.
order.
I'm gonna
Yes,
tell you what the truth is,
and
and you need to blindly follow that.
I will be a good little submissive woman sitting here
Okay.
listening to what you
Oh,
have to say.
yes, you always are, aren't you? Okay, good.
Mhm, mhm.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's the image we're
That's
gonna keep
me.
up for a moment. So to start off, there's two kinds of campus ministries. There's affiliated and then there's unaffiliated. So, affiliated, obviously, this means they are affiliated with a particular denomination, like the Baptist Student Ministry or whatever,
Gotcha.
or a particular church, that's
Okay.
near campus or something like that. So,
Okay.
um, and then there are the unaffiliated, which is like a parachurch ministry.
What's that mean?
And what parachurch just means it's an evangelical ministry that kind of operates outside of any denomination.
Any accountability?
Yeah.
I bet there are opinions
I bet there are
within
opinions.
the campus ministry thing
Yeah.
about being affiliated or unaffiliated. I bet
Oh,
there
yeah.
are really intense emotions
Well,
about
kind of
this.
like non-denominational churches.
Yes.
If you are not part of a presbytery, a national presbytery, well, then how in the heck who is going to hold you accountable for what kind of wily things you decide to pull out of the Bible?
Where are you
And
sending your dues? And who's
yeah,
getting
right.
your tithes?
Who is counting
What?
how many attendees you have every Sunday? And right.
Yes.
So, very
Okay.
important. Okay.
Okay.
So, I'm going to give you a little background. I'm going to give you a little history because this is what I like to do on my segments. I like to give some
Because
history.
that's right, because you're a good, thorough researcher. I
I
appreciate that
am,
about you, Kristen.
even though our listeners don't think so at all. They're like, "Why have you not researched anything?" Like,
What?
I really, really have.
You guys are just talking off the cuff, just bunch of bullshit. Okay,
Well, yeah, that's what
hit
we
me with
do,
your
though. I mean, that's the best thing we do is talk
that's
bullshit.
true. That's
So,
true.
really, dear listeners, everything that we say has to be taken with a grain of salt. Measure
Yeah.
it against your own plumb line of what is right and
Yeah.
true. Yeah. We're just here to spew our own little piece about, and maybe to get a piece. But
If
that
that
hasn't worked
ever
for me so
happens,
far.
okay, please tell me if it does.
What,
If a
if people reach
listener
out and want to get with me?
Yeah, if a listener reaches out to you, it's like, "Hey, heard you're single and you're, hey."
I'm going to make sexy eye contact now. So, in case anybody
Is
looks
watching.
at this on
That is
YouTube.
not appealing. Let's
Oh, it's
just
not?
no.
Maybe that's why I'm not
That's
getting any.
no. Let's
Dang it.
move along from that. Okay.
All right. Okay. So back to campus ministries. See, this is why you need campus ministries to hold you accountable. Brittany. We need accountability or else you just fall off the rails and you start doing all kinds of
Doing sexy eyes at
wicked,
people. I
evils.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. Bedroom eyes that look more like you're possessed. Okay. So, all right, background. Going to give the background of campus ministries. So, the first ever campus ministry was called InterVarsity. Have you heard of this?
I've heard of them. Yep.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Yay. All
Yep.
right. So there's
Okay.
something, All right. So back at the University of Cambridge in England in 1877,
What?
yeah, a group of Christian students started meeting together, like just to pray and study the Bible. And other people were like, hey, what's up? And they started gathering more and more people that wanted to be involved, like fellow students and stuff. So soon, similar groups started showing up on different campuses close by in England.
Yeah.
And so they eventually decided to form what they called intervarsity, meaning, between schools. So that's what they did. So they formed this group of college students. That's the very first one. In 1928, they brought InterVarsity to Canada first because they weren't, they had to test it out with the Canadians where they're nice before before bringing it to the United States. So it
Yeah.
was 10 years later in 1938 that the first ever campus ministry of InterVarsity came to the United States.
Now,
So,
were women allowed to be a part of this, or was this all men?
well, once again, no matter how much research I do, Whitney asks questions that I can't freaking answer. So,
okay. The reason I'm asking is because
yeah, it would make
women weren't
sense.
involved with anything. You couldn't
Well,
be a woman involved in this kind of like
in
group.
1877, how many women were even getting a college education?
That's what I'm saying. Yes. I
So,
mean,
yeah. So the
I bet it was
likelihood
all
is
men.
very slim, right, that there were women at this
Yep.
time. I'm just
Yeah.
going to assume probably
Again,
both.
another ministry started by white men. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, this whole nation was started by white men coming over and deciding to lord over everybody else. But that's
All
another
right.
episode.
Okay. Right. All right.
We could discuss
So,
the Pilgrims and the Puritans around Thanksgiving.
seriously.
Yay. Okay. So the first campus ministry, though, that was founded in the United States was actually found in 1933. So it existed in the United States prior to InterVarsity making its way over. And that is the group Navigators. Have you heard of that one?
I think it's maybe something different that I'm thinking of. I'm not sure that that's
Okay.
campus ministry. Okay. So Navigators.
Right.
Right?
So that
Are they
was
going
started.
today?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they were when I was in college. Yeah. They are because I was looking up their website.
Okay.
Yeah, they're still going. That was started by a sailor in the Navy, in the U.S. Navy.
Oh,
He started leading a Bible study on like one of the ships that
on
he
the ship.
was, yeah,
Okay.
assigned to. I don't know all the naval terms, but so he was afloat on a boat and decided to have a Bible study. And then I don't know, somehow he made his way to Nebraska. Because the next note that I have for myself says that the first actual campus ministry to come from Navigators was at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln.
Nebraska.
Yeah,
Okay.
in 1951. So somewhere in the ocean he was floating around and then plooped down in Nebraska somehow.
Okay.
In the most landlocked state.
Exactly.
In the country, in the entire United States. So, all right then. So Navigator's mission is to know Christ, make him known, and help others do the same. So they're very evangelical, right? They're building disciples is what that is. And they have this big thing about like this system they developed called the TMS, the topical memory system, where you have to memorize like a crap ton of Bible verses and spew them out when you evangelize to other people.
Hide that word in your heart, Kristen.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So aren't all
Except they didn't
campus
want to hide it.
ministries?
They wanted to evangelize. They want to go out and
Okay.
evangelize.
That's right.
Okay, ask your
Aren't
question.
they all evangelical in nature?
I have no idea. I assume so. Or they wouldn't be on college campuses recruiting people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. I would be so fascinated to hear stories from our
I think,
listeners
yeah. Oh my
of
gosh, yes.
of trying to be recruited by campus ministries. Their recruitment techniques that they possibly used when they were in college and
Yeah.
part of a ministry, or their experience being approached by college ministries and
Yes.
trying
Well,
to be recruited.
did you ever read Blue Like Jazz by
Nope.
Donald Miller?
No.
So he has a story in there. I believe it was part of the college ministry where they go, I think it's their college ministry has a booth at
Mhm.
this, student bazaar where kids are getting drunk and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. They have
Right.
a booth where it's an apology booth where they're apologizing for being terrible Christians and being
Wow.
judgmental and
That's
just
actually pretty
not
cool.
being loving. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
I
not
believe that's the story.
apologetics.
Not
Which
apologetics.
is where I thought
Very
you were going with
different.
that. It's an apology
No.
booth where you come up and they were like, "Apologies given." Apologetics? Here is what the Bible has to say about this and that and
About
this.
homosexuality and your heathen behavior.
Yes, we're going to beat you over the head with our scripture knowledge.
No. They were just
Oh,
sitting in
okay.
there like, we're really sorry.
Sorry, we
Christians have been
suck.
terrible in the past and we have been too, and let's
Yeah.
just talk about it. And they'd have kids stumble in half drunk, and it's a cool story. It's a really cool story. I
That
remember
is a cool
thinking that
story. I
is
kind of want to do that. Maybe
lovely.
you and I should like get together and set up on some campus,
Well, I
college
actually
campus
did.
somewhere and sit there at a booth and let people come up and say, "We fucking hate Christians," and we'll be like, "I hear you." So
I kind of did that.
Did you? When?
I think I half mentioned it in our Chick-fil-A episode because when
You mentioned it at
Chick-fil-A,
that you did that at Chick-fil-A.
we did. Yeah. So it wasn't a campus ministry. It was at Chick-fil-A where we were holding signs and just like,
Saying
man,
this
we're
Christian
so sorry.
apologizes
We suck.
or sucking. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
that's
for
not
making you hate us.
love. Yeah.
Yeah. For giving you reason to despise
Yes.
us.
Yes. A lot of people said thanks. We were giving out
Yeah, that's
apologies
so
and
cool.
hugs, little
Oh.
kisses, little Hershey hugs and kisses.
Oh, that's
And
so
just saying
nice.
we're sorry.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
I would never do it now, but I'm glad we did.
I
It
would
was a
do it
nice thing to
now.
do. I know
I
you
would
would.
too.
I know
Yeah.
you would because you're a decent human being.
Aw, and
Yeah.
yet no one wants to date me. Wait, no, that's not true. That's not true. There are
You
plenty
could
of
get a
people.
date.
Oh yeah, there are plenty of people who seem to want to date me, just none that are decent human beings.
Are not
No,
slime from the bottom of the ocean. Yes, I
correct.
mean, there's a lot of fish in the sea, but there's some
No, there's no sea
bottom
anymore.
feeders.
At the age of 50, it's not a sea. It's like
No,
a
it is that
nuclear waste
stagnant
swamp
pond.
that
They've been
some
laying on the bottom far too long.
right, and it's
They
like it finally grew some little limbs and it's like crawling its
through
way
the sludge
out.
up through the yeah.
Right. It really just wants to grab me by the ankles and drag me back under. So,
Has absolutely it had no touch with reality whatsoever. It doesn't
right.
know anything outside of its little pond. It's a gross world out there, I'm sorry
It
to
is a
say.
gross world out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think we kind of touched last week on how someday we're going to have to talk about Christian dating websites.
We Will, yes.
Oh my goodness. Because I have tried many of them and
Oh, I
yikes.
cannot wait to hear the stories.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to try not to veer off onto that right now because that might be like a 9-episode long whole thing. I mean,
Okay.
we might have to start another podcast just about Christian dating because there's so much. But getting back to campus ministries, I did date a lot in campus ministries, and campus ministries made for really a pretty good dating pool in college. If you were looking for
Yeah,
someone who shared your values and, was
sure.
hopefully not going to drag you into the swamp water, but actually,
He
there's
probably would.
definitely no guarantee of that.
Yeah.
Um, but it was a great place to find decent guys to hook up with, right?
Well,
So,
at my Bible college, that was the entire goal. I mean, they
yeah,
said you were there to get your MRS degree.
nice.
Every woman was going into childcare or
Hmm.
vocal piano performance because she was
Oh my
expecting to
God.
be a pastor's wife in a church. So she could do two
Hmm.
things in the church. She
Hmm.
could play the piano, sing, and
And work in the children's ministry.
exactly. And she was looking for a husband, and the men were looking for a suitable, submissive wife. I never
So is
dated
that why you chose this
anyone.
college? Were you like, I
Hell
want to
no.
go and find myself a husband
No.
and be a pastor's wife?
No. In fact, I never dated anyone on campus.
Why did you choose that college?
That is a really good question. I don't know.
Do you have any journals from back in that time
I've
or anything?
burned everything.
Okay. So the world may never know what
I
was going
mean,
on in
yeah,
your sweet little obedient Christian mind
I
when
think
you
it was
chose that
mostly
college.
to appease my mother. She went with me to the campus like trip. I took a
Mm,
year off of high school and I had no idea what I was doing. And I think it
okay.
was just like mom will be really happy if I go here and it'll be fine. I was trying to be a good little Christian at the time.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
trying to be like obedient and stuff, but I mean, yeah, no, it wasn't to find a guy or anything. Mm-mm.
So I don't live in Kansas now, but I did for the bulk of my life. And born and raised in the Kansas City area on the Kansas side. And then, of course, you and I met when we both lived in Wichita, and neither of us live there anymore. Um, but I went to Kansas State University. Now, I lived closer to the University of Kansas, to KU. And both of my sisters went there, but I went to K State
You're a rebel.
because I know I was in my family.
I mean, they
Um,
are,
what?
aren't they enemies? KU and
Well, of course,
KC
they're
are
rivals. Yeah.
rivals. Yeah.
They're
So your
yes.
siblings went there and you went to the other one.
I
Of
did.
course you
Bec
did.
yeah. And if you ever met my siblings and then stood them next to me, you'd be like, "Wait, you people are related?" Um, but see, I was the first Christian in my family. My sisters were just godless punks,
Yes.
so they could go to
Yes.
KU where all of the, crazy hedonic, ritualistic evils were happening. But
Yes.
I followed most of the kids in my youth group to K State. That's why
Oh,
I chose
okay.
it. It
So they
wasn't
had a
for any
big,
academic purpose. It wasn't
gotcha.
like
Yeah, you
I,
didn't know what you were doing. You went into art,
yeah,
what?
art
History,
therapy.
art.
So I have a major in art and a minor in psychology, which is how I was
Okay.
able to go and get my master's in counseling
Yes,
because
okay.
I have
Got
a
you. Some
background in
kind of a
psychology.
foundation. Yes. So was
Yes.
there a big campus ministry there then
Oh, yeah.
at
Well, there were many,
K-State?
many, many
Oh, there were
campus ministries there.
many. Okay.
So the main ones were the ones we just talked about: InterVarsity, Navigators. The biggest one on campus was Campus Crusade for Christ.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So,
CCC.
that's right. So if you have not heard of Campus Crusade for Christ, and actually they changed their name.
As
When
they
was
should
it?
have.
Back in 2011, they changed their name to Crew
I mean,
because there
yeah,
were some
because Crusades. If you know what the
right.
Crusades are, you probably shouldn't put that in your name.
Correct. If you're thinking about the
All of
Crusades back
the
in the day when
murdering that Christians did in the
right.
name of Christ. Right.
So they
Okay.
actually mentioned on their website that they changed their name to Crew in 2011 to overcome existing barriers and perceptions inherent in the original name, particularly
Perceptions.
among Muslim community. Yeah, it's not just perceptions.
Yes. It's
Um,
no.
it
You mean the vast
the
history?
history of the world, right? To
Yes.
overcome the history of what
Hey,
is
it's just a
associated with that name.
perception. It's just those Muslims that perceive us to be a certain way. We're not like that.
Right,
I mean,
right.
there is the history of murdering Muslims. But okay. All
So,
right, so they're crew now.
yeah, they're Crew. Now they offer spiritual guidance, resources, and programs tailored to people from all cultures in every walk of life, including 2,300 campus ministry locations.
Dang.
So,
Yeah.
on 2,300 US college campuses. So, there you have it.
Yeah.
They were founded in 1951, and they were like based on the conservative evangelical anti-communist orientation back in 1951.
Anti-communist.
Yes. Yes. Got
Now,
it.
was this uh by chance established by Jerry Falwell?
That is an excellent question because so far he has touched everything we've ever spoken to.
I know, and he
Um,
hasn't had his little mitts in campus ministry.
you
He
know,
started his own
he
college.
started a
That's
university.
right. That's right.
So I guess he was just busy with that one. But
Okay.
no, he doesn't have anything to do with Campus Crusade for Christ. That was started in part by Bill Bright and some other followers. And if you don't recognize the name Bill Bright, he is the one who originally developed and published the quote unquote 4 spiritual laws. Do you
Oh,
remember this? And
the
like,
name does sound familiar. Yes.
so
The four spiritual
this
laws.
4 spiritual laws. I'm going to tell you what they are right now. I'm going to tell
Okay.
you. See if this rings any bells. 1, God loves you and has a wonderful plan for your life. 2, man is sinful and separated from God. Thus, he cannot know and experience God's plan for life. 3,
Okay. The 1 and
what?
2 are already so vastly different. Okay, number 1, God loves you. Number 2, you are shit. Number 3,
Number 3,
okay,
Jesus Christ is God's provision for man's sin, through whom we can know God's love and our plan and his plan for
right? There's a
us.
mediator between 1 and
Yep,
2. And number
right?
4,
Is we must receive Jesus Christ as our Lord by personal invitation. So, if you've
yes.
ever seen the printed version of these 4 spiritual laws, they have like little tracks, and I
Of
used to
course.
hand this shit out with
Yes.
Campus Crusade for Christ, and
Uh-huh.
I have been places when I was younger that they handed it out to me.
Yep.
But it shows these little
Is it
figures
the
of
big
like,
cavern and the cross
yes,
is going across the
that's
cavern and
that's
you have to walk across the cross to get to the love?
yeah, there's a filthy little
Yes.
human standing on one
One
side of a
cliff,
cliff face, and on
right?
the other cliff face is the Almighty God. And
And
then,
typically in the cliff at the bottom it are like flames and
yes, that's hell,
the
right.
right, you don't want to
And
fall
then
into.
there's this ginormous cross, and that represents Jesus. And boom,
The cross
it
comes over.
falls and it creates a bridge to
That's
get
right.
from your filthy abyss to purity with
glory
God,
land.
and you become clean by the time you reach
number
the other side.
4, you have
Through
to
the
walk
blood of
across
Jesus. Yeah.
the cross. Jesus,
Yes.
God's not going to
He's
just
the
pick you up
only
and
way.
bring you there.
No.
You have to do the work.
You
and
can't
cross
beam
the
your
cross
way
yourself.
Star Trek style
Yes.
over to God. No.
Exactly.
And he's not going to send his almighty giant hand and...
No, because he's already sent the cross. He's done the work.
That's right. He
now
did
you
it.
have to...
I made that slurp sound, and then I slurped up my own saliva, and now I'm choking on it.
Okay, I'm going to edit this out.
Why? It's so attractive, along with the bedroom eyes I was making. Yeah. Okay. So, did you know that in 1972, the Campus Crusade for Christ coordinated the Jesus movement, or coordinated with the Jesus movement, to organize that big evangelical Explo 72 that we've talked about in several episodes.
Okay.
The whole Billy Graham thing that was the first music festival, Christian music festival.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? You look confused.
No, I'm just waiting for you to be done coughing. Just get it
out.
out.
Cough again.
I'm going to take a drink of water.
I think I drank all my water. Let's see if I've got a drop. Well, that was kind of enough. All right. So...
Yes, I do remember that the Campus Crusade CCC crew, right. Okay, paired up with Billy Graham to do Explo, the first Christian, whatever it was.
I mean, it was massive. I mean, there were like several 100,000 people. Anyway, yes, it was the first Christian music festival, and yeah, it was just a huge thing with lots of preachers and teachers and yeah, whatever. Okay,
big conference.
So that was we've talked about the Jesus movement, and we've talked about Christian music festivals, and now it's all coming together because we've got the final piece, and that is Campus Crusade for Christ that helped put that whole Explo 72 thing together.
So what do campus ministries really do? Is it like it's just a place where Christians can come together and get to know each other, and do they do outreach? What are they doing on college campuses?
All the ones that I visited, they typically meet weekly.
Where are these kids meeting?
Usually in a big lecture hall.
On campus, not like in a church somewhere off campus or something. No, they are
on campus. And the university will allow them to, I don't know, rent out, I don't know, whatever, a big lecture hall space once a week, and the ministry meets in there. And usually there's skits and music and fun, shenanigans to start with.
Okay.
Attention getters,
They're like the college students, I'm assuming, are putting on things to entertain the newcomers or whatever. Like the skits, there's food, there's a message being preached.
But yeah.
What? No food? That would be the number one thing, I would think.
So no food, because Brittany, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of kids at each one of these events. And
thousands of kids are showing up?
To some of them, yeah, depending on the size of the campus. So they can't afford to, they can't even afford to pay the staff. The staff are raising money for their own tuition. I mean, for their
20, 30 kids.
Some of them are. It depends on the size of the campus, and it depends on the creepiness of the ministry. So, but the really fun ones,
Yeah.
a much bigger crowd.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. I mean, it sounds to me a lot like Young Life in high school or
Yes.
something. Like Young Life would come in and we'd meet somewhere and do
Yes.
skits and the whole thing and little message and really just trying
Yes,
to get
ma'am.
kids together and keep them out of the parties.
That's exactly it. And Young Life actually has a large campus college campus ministry as well. I mean,
Yeah.
mostly they're known for high school.
Yeah.
And then they branched out to like middle school, and I think they called that Wildlife. At least they did
Wildlife and then
where
kids
we
with
lived.
disabilities and all kinds of
Yeah,
things.
and
Yeah, they've done
then
all kinds of things.
and they also have like 200 and something campus locations for Young Life University. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's exactly like that. You get it. You get it. Um so right, so we would meet together, songs and, uh skits and whatnot, and then someone would get up and talk about something, probably purity,
Right.
you know,
Right.
probably
Yep.
abstinence, probably, how to chase after Christ when the world is trying to make you drink the Kool-Aid
Yep.
um, of sin. And yeah, so it, I mean, it was fun. I really, I enjoyed those things. Uh, I started off my freshman year going to Campus Crusade for Christ. That's the one that I got involved with immediately.
Uh-huh.
Most of my friends were involved with that one. And it was all good and fine until I started having sex. And we talked about this last week during our Purity Culture podcast about how I really had to evaluate my faith because I felt very deeply judged and not
Yes.
welcome.
So they knew that you were having sex? Some of them
No.
did? Oh, so just the stuff they were talking about
Yes.
and everything you
Yeah,
felt
I did
like
not feel comfortable there because they made it very clear that having sex was a no-go.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
we divided up into small groups. I mean, you could be a part of a small group Bible study. So that during the week you could be a part of something smaller than just the huge group. Not everybody did that, but
Yeah.
for Campus Crusade for Christ, reminds me a little bit of your college experience because you could not be a staff person with Campus Crusade for Christ and be unmarried. You had to be married to another person that was also a full-time staff person. You both had to
Wow.
agree as a couple to be full-time staff people for Campus Crusade for Christ. Probably they didn't
Wow.
want men getting into Campus Crusade for Christ and hitting on all the single
College
college
girls.
chicks. So that
Yes.
kind of
Not
makes
like it
sense.
didn't happen, married or not.
Oh, I'm sure it
But I
really did.
mean the image issue. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
the couple that were the staff at our campus at K-State back in the early 90s. Aw, they were so sweet. They told us their love story about how they met and how they courted and how they didn't even hold hands until after they were engaged,
Oh.
and how one day she was sitting on his lap at his mother's home.
Were they married by this point? Because
They were
that's
not.
oh.
But you better believe. So that's exactly the point of the story I'm getting to, is that she was sitting on his lap and his mother took a photo of them and she had shown it to some friends and they were like, "Oh, you sat on his lap and you two are not married? What the?" Never mind that there were
Yes.
other people in the room taking photos. The fact that she was
Right.
touching that much of him physically, and I guess
She
in that
was
close of a
that close
proximity to his
to his
penis.
Genitalia.
Yeah, that's correct. So she was telling us this story in front of the whole big group, and saying, "Oh, and then I realized that was so wrong." And I felt so and I'm like, "What?" I thought she was going to say, "There's nothing wrong with sitting on your betrothed's lap." But no. She was like, "Oh, I was a filthy
Right.
sinner for having sat
Yes.
on my fiance's lap in the presence of his mother." What a trip.
Oh, jeez. What a trip.
Right. So after I started having sex, right. That I was not feeling like that was a place I could
No.
return to. So I got involved in another campus ministry that was very local. It was an affiliated ministry,
Okay.
and it only at the time met on college campuses in and around Kansas City area. So it was at KU,
Pretty small.
K-State, and some
Yeah.
Missouri campus. But it was based out of this big church that was in Kansas City. And a lot of my I ended up making a ton of friends that like were on like student
Mm-hmm.
staffers, um, with that. But it was called Ichthus, which have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the big
Well, you've
music
heard the term.
festival
Okay,
and
sure. Right.
yeah,
The
there's
word
a lot of
Ichthus
things
is
called
used
ichthus. Yeah.
around Christian
Ichthus is,
circles.
yeah,
It,
popular word.
it right. It's
The
it's
fish.
Ichthus for the right, the Greek letters spell Ichthus, and supposedly it's the letters, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, were supposed to stand for Jesus Christ, God's Son, Savior. But in Greek, and it was an acronym. And then so you
Yes.
see those like Jesus fish on people's bumpers, car bumpers, and
Yep.
they have the words Ichthus and yeah. So that's what that is. So anyway, this ministry was called Ichthus, and it was more my speed because these people were doing keggers on the weekend. And
Yes.
yeah,
This
and
is why a lot of people become Catholics because
why they
we're
become Catholics?
well, yeah, like yes, like my cousin, she was like, I probably should choose a religion because I'm going to have kids at some point. And,
Catholics don't care if we
Catholics,
drink.
that'll get me to heaven, but I can also get drunk and gamble on the weekends.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
and that gets me in.
And I don't have to actually commune with God in any way except to drink juice after
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I'm
So,
good. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I get that.
Become
So,
Catholics, you said? Who
yeah, I'm
has
like, who
ever become
becomes Catholic?
a
Now you're born into that
Catholic?
crap, and then most people are like, "Oh, yeah, no," the quickest they can run away
Yeah.
from it. But I don't know that I've ever heard another story of an individual just out
Yeah.
and about on the earth going, "La di da, I feel like I need to
Yeah.
choose a religion.
Convert.
Catholicism sounds good." Who?
Okay. If
Who?
you are listening and you converted to Catholicism
By
because you saw
choice.
value in
Yeah.
the religion,
Right.
please
Not
tell us
because,
why.
yeah, somebody wouldn't marry you or whatever unless you did.
I
But
almost thought
because,
about it. I thought hard about it. I almost did it.
for
I
real,
almost yes,
you're blowing my
converted
mind
to
right now. Why?
I
Why?
know.
Why?
Well,
You're like, so I don't have to
because
evangelize.
kind of.
Yeah.
And there's a whole like I do find a lot of value and I did and I actually still do in the kind of the more mystic mystical Catholicism, like
Okay.
Desert Fathers and Saint Francis of Assisi and the saints. And there's some real, I don't know, just really appealed to me when I was in my 20s, early 30s.
Okay.
Yeah. And
And
yeah,
like all the liturgies and stuff like that is just kind of the
yeah, I loved it. I loved it.
hmm,
I think I really loved it coming out of all of the everything we talk about, all of the
sure.
fundamental, like evangelical, like, you know, charismatic, all that kind of stuff. There's something nice about just sitting and like it was just the complete opposite. And I think that's what I really liked about it.
I
But
can
my
see
best friend
that.
and her
Okay.
husband, they converted. They
Hmm.
became Catholics in their probably 20s.
Okay.
Yeah, and still go.
Very interesting.
Yeah, they're Catholics.
Catholics.
They're Catholics.
Catholics.
But I think, yeah, we had talked to them a lot about that. It was kind of the same thing for them, but they actually went through with it.
Wow.
I know.
So, okay. Well, there's a lot of Catholic student ministries too. I mean, a ton. I mean, there's, well,
What
I
did
think
they
there's
do
like
when they get
Catholic
together?
Student Union and I don't know, probably drinking. I I,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, drinking
Or else,
and saying their Hail Marys and Our Fathers. I mean, what are they?
right.
They're not doing skits, are they? I can never
I
see
have I
a Catholic student ministry
no
doing
doing
any of
anything
that. I don't
wild,
know. I think
and
Catholics are a lot of Catholics are really big into like social activism and stuff like that, which I always
oh,
really
right. Yeah.
liked
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Social
With those
justice and stuff like
nuns.
yeah, yeah. Okay, sure. Well, maybe that's the crap that they do. I really
Yeah,
have
who
no
knows?
idea.
Let us know.
So, I when I was looking online and trying to find like some people's experiences with different ministries, eh, I just was having a heck of a time. I mean, one person said something about they wrote a blog and they said they were a member of Navigators in college. And she said that they, meaning the Navigators group, used to look down at anyone who was in Campus Crusade for Christ because they were, as the Navigators thought, just having fun, whereas we were
Mm,
serious about our faith.
we were
So,
dedicated.
yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
I
the only
that does not surprise me at all.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like any denomination,
Right. Those
Lutherans looking down on
Methodists, those
Methodists,
aren't
looking
real
down on
Christians because they
right.
allow women to preach. And yeah.
Yeah, all the reasons why that go back to the Crusades of all of the hating on one another.
Right. Right. Can't even get along within our own selves even though Jesus said the whole crux of everything comes down to love one another. Can you guys just fucking do that? Forget everything else. Focus on this. Love one another.
I
Nope.
refuse.
Nope.
I
Nope. Nope.
refuse.
Nope.
Nope.
Can't even love
Mm-mm.
the other Christian ministries because
No,
they aren't serious enough.
that's right.
Okay. Wow. All right then. So I did find, interestingly enough, a lot of people on Reddit, a lot, and I mean a lot, um, complaining about s- different campus ministries. And when I was reading their Reddit threads, I found out it's all the same. It's all affiliated with the same thing. They were complaining about how aggressively um evangelical they were. Like,
Mm.
basically attacking them on the college campus and not letting up with them, trying to get them to join their Bible study and and not letting them out of their conversations and
Oh, so these
arguing in
were like
circles.
non-Christians who were talking about how
Well,
these
a lot of them were Christians too, and they're like, I just I would tell them I'm a Christian. I would tell them I'm involved with whatever. And they were like saying, well, that's not good
Yes.
enough.
You have
And
to
you
join
need to believe
us.
our particular. So I found out that all of these different groups, and they go by different names, are affiliated with the ICC, which is the International Christian Church, which is like a cult. It's a cult. It has off
The International Christian Church.
International Christian Church. It's formerly known as the International Church of Christ.
So they have college ministries as
Yeah.
well? And
Well,
what are
they
those
certainly
called?
have college outreach
Oh,
plants,
jeez.
and they're trying to get people to join their Bible study. But all of these students that said that they're approached by them said that they won't say who they're with. They won't say where they're affiliated. They won't say the name of the church. They won't tell exactly what they believe. They just tell you that whatever you believe is wrong. And
Right. It's a
so,
cult.
right,
Yes.
on different college campuses, they go by chosen or thrive or bold, the bold ministry, or dream. Those are 4 different ones. I guess they
Oh,
changed their
gosh.
name for every different campus
Yeah.
so people can't track them.
Stay covert. That's
Yeah,
right.
very much. So it was hilarious. So I started reading some of these posts, and I want to read a couple to you if you don't mind.
Oh, please do.
Okay. So the first one is a little rant saying, I'm sick of the campus ministries. And they say, I've been approached so many times that I feel like I no longer have the freedom to go about my day without hearing about the glories of some religious group on campus. I feel like something needs to be done about this. Yes, they have the freedom to go try and ask people to join, but hunting people down every day of the week is unbearable. Even if I put my headphones in, have a mean face, am eating food, or trying to look distracted, they won't back off. What's worse is they try to engage you for 5 to 15 minutes of grueling small talk before they eventually get around to their point, and they're just forceful about their views. I say I'm not interested, and then they run off together whispering to each other. Nice.
Oh
So
my
they run off and like,
gosh.
well, that person is just
Well, that's just they're
right.
just going straight to hell.
So it turns out that the person that was complaining there was talking about this ICC
Okay.
group. And so a lot of people posted on that and then pointed them to other. And so I just went down this deep, deep, deep rabbit trail.
I bet that
But
was
I just,
fun.
oh, it was. I mean, I spent hours on it, but I just picked out a few stories to tell you. But this person said they keep getting approached by students in the Thrive campus ministry. So one of the ones that I named there.
Yeah.
They say not a week goes by without some dude from this group coming up to me asking, hey, I'm part of a campus ministry, and then inviting me to their quote unquote Bible study. He says they must have recruited a lot of students because I frequently encountered them blah, on blah, 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 like on, he's talking about like particular campus buildings. Today I was so tired of their shtick that I told them I am a devout Catholic.
Oh, that was
Which,
the wrong thing to say.
except the guy said, you need to leave that and come with us while you have a chance.
Yeah, jump off the Catholic boat and
Right.
get on the cross with
Yes.
Christ. Oh, geez.
So then he went home and he did some research about Thrive, and he said it's a strict and manipulative cult posing as a non-denominational fellowship. And he said
Yeah.
he found out some friends had gotten pulled into their Bible studies thinking it was just a normal Christian fellowship. And then the people in the group tried to gaslight and pressure him into joining their group, and they were just very manipulative. So,
Now, I think I heard a podcast about this recently
oh,
about
really?
it was well, it was a couple, they were like dating, this boy and girl, they were dating.
Mm-hmm.
They were at college and they got involved in this like quote unquote Christian ministry, and then just disappeared. And like their parents had no idea where they were. So it was this investigative reporter who was like trying to hunt these kids down. Like, where did they go? Some people said that they saw them then dressed in these weird clothes. They would have people showing up to speak for them, quote unquote. Like all this weird stuff was happening. They were trying to recruit them into their cult. So, and it happened that like they got pulled into this Christian ministry. So be careful out there, kids.
No kidding. You know, I love me some true crime and I love me some cult shows. I'm a big fan of both.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to do some more digging on
I'm very interested in this. I think you should. Let's talk about this on our cult episode. We're definitely going to talk some cults.
To just one last little bit, I want to let you know about ICC before we sign off for the day. A lot of people were giving these Redditors advice on how to get these very aggressive evangelists to leave them alone on campus. And one person said, tell them you worship Satan and ask if they'd like to I can't even get it out. Tell them you worship Satan and ask if they'd like to take a bath. They will leave you alone so fast. Would you like to take a bath? He said to do that especially when people come to your door to evangelize. So if the Jehovah's Witness,
would you like to take a bath?
Or the Latter-day Saints,
Oh, that's amazing.
Satan. Would you like to come in and take a bath?
Take a bath,
right?
Yes.
So
that may work. That may work.
I mean,
the real strong pushers, they're not threatened by that. So one of the pastors, I mean, going to a Bible college, we had to evangelize too. That was part of it. I told you we had to do like volunteer hours, and we had to be evangelizing and leading people to Christ. That was, and
I bet the townspeople fucking hated the school. How many times must the poor townspeople be going to Ace Hardware and getting Jesus crammed down their throat?
I mean, poor people. But I mean, I have already said I was not that kind of and I still am not. I'm not an evangelical. I mean, even if I like, oh, this is so amazing, something that I take, vitamins or whatever, I'm not going to tell you about it necessarily. I mean, I'm just not, a salesperson. I felt like I had to be in sales to, be a Christian. And this professor was, one of the assignments was we had to draw our lifeline up until that point. I think I was 19 at the time. So you have to draw your 19 years and put an X along the timeline every time you've led somebody to Christ.
What?
And if you don't have any X's, it's because your life is, just like the line, empty.
Wow.
And I remember hearing that, and I was like,
I don't
have any X's. Oh my God, I'm such a disappointment. And I was like,
I'm 19 years old and I have done nothing to advance
my life is so
Christ.
Empty, and I need to go find some vulnerable people to pray with. I need to go pray on some people so that
did you run out that very day and try to evangelize people so you could put some X's on your line?
My life is still empty, Kristen.
Or did you just make some crap up?
Prayed the sinner's prayer with anybody in my entire life. I have never prayed the sinner's prayer with anybody. My life is still empty to this day.
Have you said it for yourself?
Oh, many times.
Okay, I thought that's what you were telling me.
Because you can't just say it once. You have to say it over and over again because you are a perpetual sinner.
What denomination did you grow up in? Because that's just so wrong.
You have to ask forgiveness constantly.
Well, you have to ask forgiveness, but you don't have to ask for salvation.
It's the same thing.
Wow. Okay. That's very LDS. But we can... It's instead of debating theology, I want to sign off with one more Redditor's post forewarning us about the ICC cult on campus.
Yes, please.
He said that he was approached by one of these people, and they were very persuasive and talked him into going to a Bible study. After the Bible study, he went with one of the young ladies that he met there, who was an established member of the ICC, to a local park, where he then got a very uncoordinated tug job from her in a park treehouse. The end.
Oh,
Just so you know that all campus ministries are the same.
Tug job.
Yes.
Regardless.
It doesn't matter if it's campus ministry or if it's a bar on campus. Teens and young 20s are horny individuals. And just like we spoke of last week at church camp, they will find a way to have an outlet for some of those hormones.
Not all of them, Kristen.
That's true. Not all of them.
Not all
of them.
Some are really trying to walk the straight and narrow, like the girl who felt so bad about sitting on his lap.
Right.
Some are really trying to walk the straight and narrow and do the right thing.
And I wonder how many exes she has on her line because she stayed so pure.
Yes. Good for her.
Prior to marrying him. I mean,
good for her.
There were probably a lot of people that denounced Christ once they saw the picture of her sitting on the guy's lap. I'm sure people walked away from the faith and they were like, that.
Yeah. No.
These hypocrites.
Sinners.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm not sure what we're doing for the next few weeks. We don't know. I'm going to be on vacation.
Okay.
And we shall see. So the next few weeks are just surprise episodes. Well, surprise, you don't know what's coming.
I do have a friend.
We'll see. We will see if we're going to invite people or we'll talk about it. So to our listeners, there's super surprise episodes.
Ooh, super surprise. Even we are going to be surprised. Everyone's going to be surprised.
Yes.
It's like ordering one of those grab bags. You know, you open it up, you don't know. Nobody knows.
It could be candy, it could be a used toothbrush. You don't know.
Right.
It could be, you don't know. So, okay, well, shoot us your suggestions. If you have topics that you want us to discuss, please do. And thank you to everyone who listened to the last episode. Again, thank you. I did hear that it was a little triggery to some people. So
I can believe
apologies to that for that. But I
think maybe all of our episodes have been triggery for people.
Maybe.
You know, depending on the person. But yeah, I could see that.
That's just how it goes. So
yeah.
All right. Well, Kristen, thank you for all the research in this lovely discussion today.
You're welcome. Now go out there and win some souls for the Lord.
Say that prayer with
Put
the
your
vulnerable.
exes on your line.
But not crusading.
No
crusades, please. Okay.
All
See
right.
ya.
Fare thee well.